Hey everybody, this is Kevin from Turn 1 Soul Ring. We thought we'd take a little trip back in time this week to a conversation that Riley and I had back when I first started playing Magic Arena. By that point, he was already a seasoned player, and what you're about to hear were just my first impressions of the game. Since then, a little bit has changed, and I'm sure will notice that based on the things I've said in past episodes regarding the game, but it's just a little mini-sode as we get things in order for next week. So please enjoy, and we'll talk to you next week.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Riley.
And we thought we'd do a little mini-sode about my first impression with MTG Arena. And because with the release of Arena on iOS mobile devices a few weeks ago, Riley, you said about a month ago before we started, I finally downloaded it and started playing. I did have to update my phone, which was a bit of an inconvenience, but part of the update was that now, I don't know what iOS I was on, but now with the current iOS, I have an iPhone 8, so I'm not sure where I'm at, but they have a little, if you're watching something on like Prime or Netflix or Disney Plus, YouTube doesn't do it. You got to get YouTube Premium, I think, but it does a little like picture in picture, so it stays there and it keeps playing. I don't know, Riley, does your phone do that?
It does, if depending on the app. Like YouTube won't do it unless you have a premium subscription, but Twitch, for example, will do that automatically. So
okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Prime does it. I'm not sure if Disney Plus does it. I think it does, but anyways, so I downloaded it. I started playing it, and before we get to we're going to talk about the gameplay and what I think about that. But I do have a few observations about how the app works. So Riley, I think you have you've downloaded it onto your phone, and you have an Android, right?
Yeah, I've got a Galaxy S10, and so I downloaded it pretty much the day it was announced that it was coming out for Android. It's definitely come quite a long way since the first day, because there was some issues I had early on with like only being usable on Wi-Fi, so it wouldn't connect over LTE.
God.
So it kind of defeated the purpose. It's like, I have to be on Wi-Fi, so why don't I just play it on my computer?
What? Exactly. Yeah.
But it now works on LTE, which is a big improvement.
Right. Yeah. And you're right, because they released it on Android and then they released it on iOS mobile devices, and that's when I got it. So overall, I just want to preface like any sort of nitpick I have about it with the fact that overall I've been pleasantly surprised by Arena. It does leave some things to be desired, like all of these digital card games, like games in general.
Yeah.
But it is nice to be able to play Magic whenever, wherever I want, even if I can't play Mono Green Tron in Modern. But maybe we'll get there. We'll see what happens. So when it comes to how it would run on my phone, I didn't have. I think I was being pragmatic with how it run. I have an older phone. Like I said, I have an 8, but I remember when they released it on Macs and like desktop Macs.
Yeah.
And Riley, you told us that your Mac would get really, really hot and like the fan would really run a lot. And there were some issues with full screen.
Still are.
And there were just... right. And there just been some issues, and I haven't downloaded it on any of my computers because I would have to update to Catalina, and just if you think my phone is old, my computers are even older. But I think that's more of a testament to Macs than saying that I'm cheap. First off, Arena does drain the battery on my phone about twice as fast as Hearthstone. That's more anecdotal than actually scientific, but it does drain it extremely fast. And I was worried that maybe it would make my phone crash or my phone wouldn't be able to handle it. And it hasn't, but if I run the app long enough, my phone has kind of frozen and I've had to restart it. Has that happened with you, Riley? Like after you exit out of Arena and you try to open another app and it's just black? That's what happened. That's what's happened to me.
No, that specific instance hasn't happened to me, but I have had issues like I mentioned before with connecting on only LTE, like the black screen when I tried to open Arena. That was all I got. So it was unresponsive, like if I wasn't on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
But yeah, I haven't had an issue with opening other apps after I've closed it.
Well, they've solved that Wi-Fi problem because I haven't had any issues with that. If anything, it runs better off of Wi-Fi. But I think that's more of a statement about the Wi-Fi networks I happen to be on. But the silver lining with that is that I now know how to restart my iPhone. So if you do have an iPhone 8, you just press the volume up button and then the volume down button in quick succession, not at the same time, just up, down, and then hold the standby or lock button, whatever you call it, until the screen goes black, and keep holding it. Don't let it go until the screen goes white and it has the little black apple in the middle, and then it'll restart. So that's a silver lining.
There you go.
I've never had to do that. So, that though has never happened in the middle of a game. So that's nice. I've never had any like disconnections, in the middle of a game, which is something that is sort of a chronic issue I found with Hearthstone, is DCing in the middle of games, whether it's standard, wild, arena, or battlegrounds. You know, and I'm not sure if that's, I'm not going to pretend to understand how the internet works, but you know, I think that's probably a combination of a server issue and the Wi-Fi I happen to be on. But you know, whatever the difference is, that is, you know, that's definitely a plus for Arena so far on mobile, that I haven't. Like I'm trying to remember, because I loathe DCs, and I don't think it's happened on Arena. And Arena takes a lot longer, I would say, in general, to load and start up. So I feel like I would remember that compared to Hearthstone.
Man. For those of you who are familiar with like downloading updates on your Arena client on your computer, like it's very much the same on the phone. It takes forever.
Yeah, and then they say like you need to have this much room to download the update. It's not going to like take up that much room. It's just to download it, and then you're going to have that you know, most of that room back, and you're like, oh, I got to delete all my Stephen King audiobooks and then resync. So, one more thing about the app is that if you're listening to music or a podcast, when you start up the app, it pauses it, it stops it from playing, like whatever you're listening to, which is kind of annoying. You can restart it again. Like you can press play on your headphones, like your wireless headphones, your headphones, to get it going again. But if it's not at the home screen, you know, where it's like, okay, you can play and you get to choose the format you play in, it'll continuously pause it if you try to press play, which is kind of annoying. I hope they fix that. But something else, and this is kind of this is not a hard and fast thing, but most of the time, once you're in that home screen or you start playing, you're in the middle of the game and you press play on your headphones, it will it'll start playing whatever podcast or music you want to listen to or you were previously listening to, but you'll lose any sound from Arena. So I just have it set so I only hear sound effects, but you lose that, which is also kind of annoying. Like I can listen to a podcast and I still want to hear the sound effects from Arena, just so when I hear that rope going, I'm like, oh, I gotta something needs to resolve. I had open mana, yeah, because you don't want to be that guy. So that's also kind of annoying. That's a real nitpick, but it is kind of annoying. And also, I should have prefaced this whole thing with I'm going to be comparing this to Hearthstone a lot, because Hearthstone doesn't do that. But again, with the going back to the picture-in-picture thing that I was talking about at the top of this, even though you can kind of get away with that with Hearthstone, especially if you're playing Battlegrounds, you know, you can put it at the top right or left corner of your screen. I really wouldn't want to do that with Arena because the lands and the non-creature permanents sit at the top left and top right of your screen, like your opponent's permanents, respectively, and then yours sit at the bottom left and right. So I guess if you're playing a really creature-heavy deck, you can have the picture-in-picture at the bottom right. But, it would just still be nice to have that option. And interestingly, this is also anecdotal. Don't have any evidence to back this up, but my phone seems to freeze up more if I'm listening to something while I'm playing Arena. If I just straight up focus on Arena and don't listen to anything else, like don't have any other kind of entertainment apps running, then it freezes up less. It still freezes up, but a lot less. And I will say, as annoying as that is, it's never happened during gameplay. So, like, I can live with that. If it never happens during a game, even a game that I'm losing, it's just that's I just can't stress enough how frustrating it is when you're playing like Battlegrounds and you have only so much time to do what you need to do, and the game DCs. You're just like, well, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm done.
That's that. Yeah.
So, so that those are kind of my like nitpicks about how the app works. And Riley, you've played it for a lot longer on both sort of platforms, desktop and mobile. Do you have any nitpicks that we haven't already talked about?
Well, overall, like, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that I prefer the desktop version over mobile, but mobile is getting considerably better. Like, one notable difference is the animations. Like, the animations are a lot more fluid on desktop, of course, than they are on mobile.
Right.
Like, mobile is a little choppier, which is not a deal breaker by any means. Like, it's still usable, and I wouldn't really expect much more than that.
Well, it's funny that sorry to interrupt you, but it's funny that we're complaining about animations when we've played with cardboard on tables for so many years.
No, it's just, it's notably choppy. I guess that's
it is
what I'm getting at. But one little feature that always tends to bug me is I don't know if you've noticed this, but when your hand is active, or like you're looking at your hand on mobile, it's a little bit more enlarged, right? Like the cards are a little bit more visible, so you can kind of see what's in your hand. But then when you pass priority or you pass your turn, it will kind of minimize and kind of shrink down to the bottom. And that always drives me nuts, because I like, why? Why does it need to do that? Like, I know that, like, there's a lot of valuable real estate on the screen, but like, I just I don't like that little feature. It's just like, I want to see my cards.
No, and I don't like that either. And Hearthstone is the same way. And it's versus desktop with Hearthstone, like, it doesn't do that. You just have your hand. And I also prefer Hearthstone on desktop. It's just it's just superior. So yeah, I totally agree. One last little nitpick about the about how the app works. When you're in between, so like, you go to play a game, you're in the game, and then it goes back to the homepage, and it does the waiting for server thing. So it does it 3 times. So it does the waiting for server, it does a little sound effect, and you're like, oh, is it done? You're like, no, it's not done. It's going to do the second waiting for server, and then it does the little sound effect. You're like, oh, is it done? You're like, no, it's going to do the third one, and then it's done. Just do the one. Just don't make the sound effect until it's ready, because the sound effect cues you to be like, oh, now I can do something. Like, I can wait. Don't do the sound effect until it's ready.
I personally, I haven't noticed that, so I don't know. Maybe that's specific to your phone.
Maybe that's an iPhone thing. Yeah. And I hope now you don't notice it. Like, I hope it's something that you just haven't noticed, because
you just shattered the glass. Yeah.
So moving on to the gameplay. So I like I said at the top, I really enjoy the gameplay. It's just like Paper Magic, of course. It's not like they can change the way the game works, but especially for someone like me who doesn't always remember all the triggers, steps, and phases during gameplay, which is why Riley, I play with you and Eric,
Yeah.
who are very conscious of those things. You both make me a better player. Like that aspect of it is really great. It's a really great tool for new and returning players, or people like me who play on a regular basis and still just, I don't know what it is.
Well,
Maybe it's too much imagination. I'm not sure.
It's a complex game, so like I mean,
It is.
You're bound.
Yeah, it is very
You're
complex.
bound to forget things, right?
Yeah. But that aspect of it is already making me a better player. Just like even just the attack, the deciding whether or not you're going to block, and then once that's decided, then I get in with my instance. It's like it's that kind of thing. Just that little that little ticker going through phases is incredibly helpful. Mm-hmm. So I know people have said this to death, but this Magic Arena has already been so instrumental in getting so many more people into playing Magic, because it makes it so accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you feel spoiled after a while, especially during the pandemic when this is kind of like one of the few outlets to Magic. It definitely is a bit of a shock when you get back into shuffling real paper and trying to remember all those triggers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like digital Catan. It sort of ruined me for real Catan. Yeah. It's just like, can you just pass the turn, please? You're done. You're not going to do anything. Don't try and trade with me. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like I should get some kind of like game piece in IRL Catan where you can just put it in front of you and you'd be like, I'm not trading, because you can do that in digital Catan.
Oh,
be like,
funny.
I'm done for trades.
Yeah.
I started with the color challenge tutorial thing, and you get the 5 monocolored decks. They aren't too bad. They're free decks, and you get all the cards in them, which I was really surprised by. Like, you get all the cards, they're in your card collection. You can do whatever you want with them. And that's another thing that Magic has over Hearthstone, is that, in Hearthstone, you have your class cards and you have your neutral cards, and you can't mix classes unless they do that in Arena at Halloween, where you can do like a mixed deck. But otherwise you can't do that, and that's something that I've always thought would be really cool with Hearthstone. But maybe it's too much power. But with Magic, you have all these cards, and you can make a 5-color deck if you want to. And I know that this isn't a revelation for me. It's just that they just give you all these cards. Mm-hmm. And so I've done you do like the weekly and the daily challenges, and then you also get like a color challenge. I don't think that's weekly or daily. I think they just throw that at you sometimes. So far I've gotten like at least a dozen decks of 60 cards, like not quite. It's like 35 of them being lands, because in all those pre-con decks they put like 25 lands, which is too much. But they just give you all these cards, and you better believe that Blizzard is not doing that for new Hearthstone players. You get they recently updated it. You get the core set, and like that's it. Otherwise you have to like, well, I don't even think there's a basic set anymore, so you can't like play to get those basic cards. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, you Hearthstone players. Yeah, it just seemed like really not. I mean, not that the decks are super powerful, but it is really great for new players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, personally, when I started an account, because my stepdaughter Gaia wanted to play some Magic with me, so she went through some of the
get him young.
Yeah, she went through some of the tutorials, and I think it was really a good step for her to take, but. When it came down to it, and when we wanted just to play Magic together, it's like, okay, well, can we skip these? And sure enough, there is a way to skip them. Like if you go into the options, there's a way to skip the tutorial and just move on to the actual gameplay with other people. So,
oh yeah, yeah, of course. I've been playing a lot of one of the pre-con decks was like a Dimir Mutate deck for Standard, and I really enjoyed it when I played with it. It was just a free deck, and I've used some wild cards to kind of make it a little more competitive.
Mhm.
And I do pretty well. I don't know what's the highest rank in standard, or I know that there are different ranks for all the formats, but like what is the highest rank? Is it Mythic?
Yeah, Mythic is the highest rank, and there's two different like levels of Mythic, so to speak. Like you could either be in the lower ranks, which is just part of the percentage, like where you are in relation to the entire pool of Mythic players. And then the higher you get, you actually get a number. So, like
Okay, yeah,
all
that's
I-
like
I-
Legend
yeah,
in Hearthstone.
yeah. I don't know where it starts, but you might be like number 1,000 or like
Yeah.
number 200 or number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, with Hearthstone it's like 4 figures, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar with Magic. But I don't really know what the how many players per game each game has. I think Magic like has more players because you also have the the paper players that don't play digital Magic.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's been a lot of fun. I've been playing that deck a lot, and it has given me a really good understanding of how Mutate works, because I felt pretty confident about how Mutate works back when we did our Ikoria set review, but I never played with any of the cards. But now I feel like I could like bust out that Otrimi commander deck and I'd be like, no, like that's not how the trigger works. You just stop. You have to sacrifice a creature and return 1 to your hand. Okay, so I got it. So like that has been a lot of fun. I don't love the timeout thing that you can do. And I think I think that was something that still exists in MTGO, that you can during your turn you have a turn limit and then you have a timeout. But I guess I just think turns should have like a standard time limit. I guess that doesn't really matter, but it just seems like,
Well, I guess it depends what strategy you're playing, right? Because like if you're playing a combo deck, like having a set limit on the length of a turn wouldn't be conducive to combo. So the rope is not perfect by any means for comboing out, because I've even like timed out just from like Arena having to make all these animations of all these copies going on the stack,
that's a problem too.
It can be frustrating. But
yeah, so I think leaving it at that is like that it's not perfect, but turn 1 I'm getting roped and then they're using a timeout and they're playing like a Scryland, and it's like, well, that's a negative experience.
Yeah. That's probably just somebody
like
disconnecting
making
and trying
dinner.
Yeah, trying to reconnect. I've definitely been there. Like, I mean, up until recently, like we use Starlink here, and when I was having issues with like a tree in our yard interfering with our Starlink signal, it would drop out like every 5 minutes or so. So you can only imagine trying to play Arena, and every 5 minutes or so it would drop out for like 30 seconds. So yeah, totally. I felt bad for my opponents because it was just like, I can't do anything. I'm just gonna sit here until my connection comes back.
Yeah, so that that's just I have the same issues with Hearthstone, and like a couple years ago they Blizzard reduced the turn time of turn 1 and 2. I think normally you get 90 seconds for a turn, but they reduced turn 1 and 2 to like 30 seconds or a minute.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So something like that would help, but I don't think there's nothing can be done about like there's no substitute for sitting down at a table and playing with another human being.
Yeah.
But aside from that, the gameplay itself is good. I thought there'd be like an issue with seeing everything well, but that for me that hasn't really been an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You just touch on what you want to see. I don't like when they have like too many non-creature permanents. They kind of like slide the lands to the other way. I'm like, no, I want to see the lands. I wish that could be like a setting. I also would like an auto squelch function. I would like that for Hearthstone as well, but they don't seem to want to do that, and that's fine. I just like mute my opponent. Sometimes I forget and they're like, good game, when they're about to win.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's just like whatever.
It's
like
you,
it
right?
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me.
Oh, it just makes me want to win more.
Yeah, it does, and I just kind of like feel bad for their families.
Yeah.
You know. Um, so moving on from the gameplay, the game, I'm kicking a dead horse here, but the economy and Riley, you mentioned this earlier. It's bad. And aside from letting players dust their whole collection to create wild cards, I'm not exactly sure what they could do. More wild card drops in packs, more wild card rewards. Maybe like doing a 1-for-1 swap. If you have a mythic, you can turn it into another mythic. So maybe all your cards are essentially wild cards. I mean, Hearthstone has a bad economy too. I heard this story once about this guy. I was reading a story on Reddit, and his girlfriend had gone into his Hearthstone account, and she had dusted his entire collection and crafted a bunch of golden Millhouse Mana Storms, which is unless you randomly generate it, it's not a good legendary. You shouldn't play it. But my point in saying this is, that's a bad experience. But with Magic, you can't do that. Like you have to have, like, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I looked into the economy, but you can't have you can't like dust a card or disenchant a card unless you have a 5th copy. Do they still do that?
So yeah, like how it works is they have duplicate protection, but I think it only really applies to rares and mythics for the most part. Like,
okay.
So basically, like if you're working on a set, like cracking packs or getting packs from limited or whatever, if you're just cracking packs in your pack section on Magic Arena, it will look at your collection from what you have from that set and try to make sure that you get a different rare or a different mythic in that slot.
Yeah.
If you already have like a complete play set of a specific rare, or give you a wild card. So
right.
That being said, like I noticed, I think it was during, I feel like it was during Kaldheim that I had pretty much all the rares, but I had a few mythics, or it might have been during M21 because I drafted M21 quite a bit. So during like M21, I had almost all the rares and mythics, and I think I had like a few Teferi slots open or something like that. And I noticed that, as I was cracking more packs, it would give me a lot of rare wild cards, but it wouldn't give me the Teferi. So it was pretty weird, but like I'm fine with getting wild cards because you can use wild cards on any card of that rarity. But yeah, there is duplicate protection. It doesn't seem to apply, at least from what I've seen, like to commons and uncommons, because I still, crack those and don't necessarily get wild cards instead, right?
Yeah, and Hearthstone has been making a push for that for a while. They've had the duplicate protection for legendaries for years now, but with epics and rares, it's a lot less common. And they have a lot more gold card drops, but I do really like the wild card aspect of Arena. And also, as you open packs, you just like with each pack you open, it adds to your mythic and uncommon wild cards. Like you just, after a certain amount of packs, you just get a mythic wild card. So that's nice. So there's, like the economy's not perfect, but it's not terrible too. Like you can still be a free to play player, and I'll let everybody know the first time I spend money on the game, but I'm really looking forward to like growing my collection enough to where I can find a deck that I like in historic and kind of, because it's more of a for lack of a better term, eternal format, and I can sort of stick with that deck and play that deck. I know it's not the same as like modern, where you can have kind of a defined deck and keep playing that deck, and you can make that initial maybe larger investment than standard, but then keep playing that deck. But yeah, like that's sort of that's what I'm like with Hearthstone. I'm an enfranchised player. I've been playing for a long time. Like most players, I started with standard, but now I play predominantly wild because I have all these cards from previous sets, and the wild format is so set that unless they want to print incredibly powerful cards into standard and ruin standard or nerf a bunch of cards in wild, I don't think the meta is really going to change. So it's great for players like me, and it's not so great for new players, which is, a similar story with a lot of games like this.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we've seen with Historic recently with Strixhaven is the mystical archives, just how they've been kind of like artificially changed in rarity. Like Faithless Looting and Brainstorm are two perfect examples of this, like where they're historically commons and now they're rares. And so that's definitely a barrier to entry, and something you may find with Historic is like Mystical Archive had a huge shakeup for Historic, and things are still settling, but just the fact that you have these cards that should have been common, maybe even uncommon, set at rare, makes it that much more difficult to break into that format. So I don't know, like the way Wizards has been approaching Historic, like they also have the Historic anthologies that kind of inject cards into Historic as well. So if those cards have any impact on the format, it can shake it up as well. So
yeah, well, that being said, I guess I kind of got in at the perfect time because, all the free packs I've been getting are Strixhaven. So, I've opened quite a few Mythical Archive cards. So
yeah, and you can always find some promo codes for like the previous sets. Like I think most of them are like play Strixhaven or play play Ravnica Allegiance or things like that, just to get I think it's like three or six packs.
Three packs. Yeah. It's with Strixhaven it was 3 packs.
Yeah. So just like think of the past sets like Play Call Time. Type in Play Call Time and you'll probably get 3 packs. So
Nice. I like too that they put that little like pack wrapping sound.
Yeah.
into the game. That's nice. That's a little like it gives me a little bit of a rush, and like I'm not a big like open packs guy. Like I'd rather just buy the singles. Like I get the same kind of rush from like putting a single that I bought into an inner sleeve that I think people get from opening a pack and getting a good card. Which is great. I'm just not like a gambler. I'd rather just I like a sure thing.
That's fair.
But one last thing. I guess this is a nitpick, but you have to win 15 games a day to fulfill that daily achievement. That's too many. That is too much of a time commitment, especially when you get into the higher ranks, and for new players. So I think either make it like play 15 games. That's something that Hearthstone did like a couple years ago, where it's like instead of having to win games, you can just play games. And they made it so you couldn't just queue in and concede. Like you had to get down to like half your life and then you could concede for it to be like a play game. So, maybe, and I just started playing, like, I don't have the most, I don't have the best decks. Like I probably have like a, like 40, maybe like 30% win rate. But it's like 15 games is quite a time investment. I will say that after each win during that, first 15 game period in a day, you do get, XP or gold, or you get a card. So that's nice. But I just think it's like you need to lower that number to like 7, like cut it in half, 7 or 8, or make it just play 15 games, because that's 15 games is like, that's, I don't know where the hell they came up with that number. I don't know if it used to be more, but they need to bring that down a little bit.
Is that a daily reward or is that a weekly reward? Because I know that
is a daily reward.
Ooh, that's steep. Yeah.
That's steep. Yeah, it's not like I'm playing like mono green Tron where it's like, okay, I got natural Tron, I'm probably gonna win this by turn 4. So, if it was like, if I could just do it like Yu-Gi-Oh style where I have the thing on my arm and just like load in my deck, okay, that's one thing, but that's not the arena world we're living in. So yeah, just lower that number, make it play games. There's other options than we've outlined, but yeah, that's it's quite a time investment. But anyways, wrapping things up here, overall good experience. I'm really enjoying Arena. I'm looking forward to growing my collection so I can play more so I can play the non-rotating formats, like you said at the top, Riley, or maybe it was before you started recording. But Brawl, I gotta get into some Brawl. Gotta check out my collection, see if I can build some Brawl decks. But with that, I think we can wrap up this little mini-sode. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Turn one soul ring.